Here we are at the 2012 Long Island Offshore Wind Conference. Registrants are starting to pile in. We have a great lineup of speakers, and we're excited to get started. Groups that have helped organize this event include Citizens Campaign for the Environment, Renewable Energy Long Island, the National Wildlife Federation, Sierra Club, League of Conservation Voters, Alliance for Clean Energy, and environmental advocates.
So we appreciate all our partners and the work that's been done to put this together. The issue of renewable energy is a critical one to our nation. It's not news to you if you've been reading the paper that climate change is here. But the impact and the cost, societally, environmentally, and economically, is far-reaching. Part of the answer is moving away from fossil fuels into the new age of renewable energies.
We are a national wildlife conservation organization with a 75-year history of protecting wildlife and wildlife habitat across the country. Thanks very much to the question that was just asked about wildlife concerns over offshore wind energy. And I will just say that as a wildlife organization, we fundamentally believe that climate change is the single greatest threat facing wildlife today, and we have got to get serious about
Can you say that again?
climate change and ocean acidification, if you want to start talking about the ocean. Really, everything about our current reliance on fossil fuels is devastating for wildlife, from the point that we drilling, mining, fracking, you name it, to get it out of the ground, to the pollution we cause when we burn it, acid rain, mercury contamination, climate change, ocean acidification. Everything about that needs to change for future generations of wildlife and people. And so we are firmly committed to helping advance large-scale deployment of clean energy, and think that offshore wind presents a tremendous opportunity for New York and for America. And we're thrilled to see the progress that's occurred over the last few years at the federal level and in the states to try to get moving.
What I want to do this morning is just take a sort of zoom out a little bit and take a big picture look, starting with how we choose our technologies. So let's look at these two competitors. On the left, we have the trusted old power plant about it. It does make electricity. The competitor makes electricity too. But it does, just like the smartphone, have a couple of drawbacks. It does require backup at times when the wind isn't blowing. And it costs more, at least initially. It costs more. What are some of the features of this 21st century technology? Well, it generates pollution-free electricity. It has a very predictable price per kilowatt hour. We will actually know what the kilowatt hour from this kind of technology costs. We can't say that about fossil generators. It uses locally available energy. It keeps our fuel dollars, therefore, here in the local economy. We're not paying for fuel, so we're not sending fuel off to another part of the country or the world. It really is energy independent. No pipeline required. It comes with its own energy supply, delivered courtesy of Mother Nature right here at our doorsteps. It needs no water to cool its generator, its turbines. And it is, I believe, a great economic development tool to build an industry as they are and have been building in Europe. Many countries are now investing heavily in offshore wind, including Scotland, including even China. So if all of these countries are choosing 21st century technology and more, what are we doing here? But the Long Island and New England region is really blessed with an amazing offshore wind research. Look at this close-up. Right here at our doorstep, we have this tremendous reservoir of a natural pollution-free energy source that cannot be interrupted by anyone. If this were an oil reservoir, I think we would see headlines that would look something like this. This is at least what I imagine it would read. A vast new energy resource discovered right in front of our doorstep. Well, there it is. All we need to do is tap into that.
You know, yesterday as we were preparing and putting the last final touches on this particular conference, reporters were calling, and one reporter said to me, well, Adrian, Aren't you as an environmentalist concerned about these big wind turbines in the ocean from an environmental perspective? And I want to be really clear on CCE's answer. No. Why? Because we're at crossroads here. And New York and Long Island are making critical energy decisions. Many of you know that LIPA is right now evaluating 2,500 megawatts in new electrical power. What will we choose? What will be our future energy here on Long Island? New York State has said 30%, it's a big goal, 30% of our electricity sold is going to come from renewables by 2015. Anybody's checking the calendar, you'll know it's 2012. And it's August, well, tomorrow. So we have 2 years and 4 months to go before we reach that goal. We're going to get cracking. The more clean energy goes on the grid, the less traditional sources are used. How about what's the world doing? Well, the world is a little bit ahead of the United States. Denmark had the first offshore wind farm in 1991. They're not new. They established this when Gordy was a lass of only 14 years old. Since then, 40 more offshore wind farms have been added throughout Europe and throughout other countries. What countries? Well, almost every other country. China, Denmark, Finland, Spain, you name it. Norway, Sweden, the United Kingdom. Over 2,500 megawatts of power come from offshore wind. Not here in the US, because it's zero here. There are 2 proposals on the table. We're not supposed to talk about them, but I'm an activist, and that's okay. So there's one which is called the partnership, the Wind Collaborative, which is on the South Shore there, you can see in the screen. Another proposal is a proposal off of, well, not really off of Long Island, but it kind of is, off of the tip there. And we could share that energy generated from that wind farm with other states. Okay, my favorite topic, wind energy and the environment. Every energy choice we make will have ramifications. Wind doesn't have zero environmental impacts. I'll be the first to tell you that. Okay, every large-scale energy infrastructure has environmental and societal impacts. Everyone. But it's up to us as a society to choose the ones with the least impact. And that's why we support wind. And you can't talk about is it wind or nothing, because that's just not the reality of it. It's either wind or some other form of traditional fossil fuels. So when you say no to wind, you're saying yes to what? Fossil fuels, nuclear, coal, something else. Soot and particulate matter from coal, oil, and natural gas cause 1,200 premature deaths just in New York State, and 2,500 heart attacks per year annually in New York State. Resource extraction also kills wildlife and damages public health. That we have to get real about our energy choices. We're killing this planet, and we are devastating ourselves economically and ecologically. And as we started out saying before, all large-scale energy has an impact on our environment. We have to choose the ones with the least impact.
Everyone in this room may know, at the most basic level, our economy represents our adaptation to the environment. We presented with a false choice between allowing current levels of pollution to continue to damage the environment, putting new limits on pollution that will damage the economy. This is a far too narrow view, as many of you understand. New York State is invested in exploring potential development in offshore wind off the coast of Long Island as well as the Great Lakes. So the need is there, the opportunities are there. I think conferences such as this, the discussions, the opportunities and the path forward. Clearly there are going to be huge changes in our mix and where we are going to be realizing our energy for the future. When people start to realize that there's value in investing in clean energy technology and retrofits and energy development, that's going to be, I think, the saving grace that there is one for our economy.
And our mission is to really promote clean, renewable electricity technologies, energy efficiency, in order to increase energy diversity, boost economic development, and really improve public health and reduce the air pollution. So with that, I do want to just put a little bit into context wind energy in the U.S., in New York State, put it into that public policy framework. We do have in New York State the political will to move forward with renewable energy, and unlike Congress, our governors here have supported a continuation of investment in renewable energy. Every year or so, Congress decides whether they're going to extend the tax incentives and the programs for renewable energy, which causes uncertainty. At least in New York, we do have a constant in terms of investment and commitment to renewable energy. But in the U.S. economy right now, there's 75,000 people who are employed in the wind industry, and as you can see, there's a variety of jobs. Kevin mentioned the potential for manufacturing. Other states have taken unused and kind of rust belt factories and turned them around and made them into what we call supply chain manufacturing, whether it's turbines or blades or gears. If you can make gears for gearboxes, they can go into wind turbines. About 8,000 of these jobs are construction jobs, and as I said, we do have a commitment to renewable energy in New York State. Our renewable portfolio standard is a 30% goal by 2015. We have the governor's climate action plan, 80% greenhouse gas emissions reduction by 2050. And in order to get there, we will need every bit of renewable energy, every bit of efficiency, and major investments in the transmission sector if we're going to achieve those goals. Do the investments pay off? And it showed that for every dollar that's been spent, New York receives $6 in direct benefits. The Climate Action Plan, you haven't maybe heard as much about it. I spent at least a whole summer, as did a whole host of people working on that. It is something that I think is going to be even important going forward in how we address climate change. And in order to get those major emission reductions, a lot of that's going to come from the electricity sector. It's also a vehicle for economic development and job creation and investment in New York State. Expanding the diversity of downstate power generation. And that's, again, why I mentioned the great resource that offshore wind is. Enhancing the reliability, encouraging the development, and increasing efficiency. And for every 1,000 megawatts of wind on the system, consumers save $300 million in wholesale energy costs. Because of that displacement, because of displacing the more expensive, primarily fossil fuels that are there, once renewable energy and wind gets on the system, it does lower the wholesale energy costs.
We actually built the first wind farm over 20 years ago. That was in Denmark. It's called Melville. That's still up and running, just as a side note there. We've sold a lot of wind turbines. We've installed a lot of turbines. And we think we have the best product out there, but that's where my sales pitch is going to end. I think one thing is, in the US right now, we don't have any offshore wind farms operating. So what I decided to do, well, let's look at Europe. We have a bunch there operating and in construction in London. And as luck would have it, there's a wind farm which is called London Array. As luck would have it, it's actually Siemens turbines. And to complete the hatch trick, it's actually the biggest wind farm, offshore wind farm currently in construction. We were there just 2 months ago, and these are real pictures of what's happening right there, just to get a sense of what does offshore wind really mean. This right here is what's called a jack-up vessel that's used to install partially the foundations there, but also our turbines, as you can tell, including the blades there. Those are really, really expensive ships. They'll cost you about, rule of thumb, maybe $250,000 a day to rent, plus fuel. They're really, really big. They're used to do that. What you see right here is an offshore substation. London Array has 2 of those. Essentially, all the wind turbines generating electricity are connected to the substation, and that's then connected to the main grid. This is about 60 by 60 feet. It's a pretty big structure. You can also imagine that's a very complex piece of engineering. So when we talk about jobs, you can imagine there's a lot of very high-paid engineers who designed this. And of course, there's a lot of blue-collar workers who actually weld it all together, connect the copper wires and everything. So there's a lot of jobs just